Right, you should be able to see Dwarf Fortress now. Yes, there we go. Right, let's get started then. Okay, so Dwarf Fortress. It's a game where you control dwarfs and build a fortress. Fairly self-explanatory to that degree anyway. So the very first screen you'll see after building a world, which I'm not going to do now just because that takes forever to do, is deciding where you want to put your fortress. So if you look at the world map on the far right, that's a rough image of the world which doesn't show you a great deal, to be honest. But the important one is a region here, which will show you the world in a little more detail. And the important things to notice here are the green bits. That's nice fields and land, they're the sort of things you want. You can grow lots of crops there. The little grey bits of the mountains, you can dig there, which is quite important when you want to dig out a big fortress. And blue is water. You can't build there. Okay. You'll see a few other symbols around, like these little red ones, which just refer to red sand, and these little things here, which, if I remember, refer to... Yep, there we go. Haunted. So go here if you want to find lots of werewolves and ghosts. I do not recommend it for the first time. So for your first fortress, what you want is something that will overlap with some grass and some mountains. Ideally, something which involves a stream, which are these little blue lines that run through. And using the letter keys, you'll be able to get a nice little overlap here. Now, one thing to notice here is, oh yeah, you just push tab to switch between these, is here on the bottom right you'll see a list of the types of things you'll encounter in the area. For your first few games, and for every game if you're a bit like me, you'll want to make sure that you aren't playing with anything with an aquifer. You can work with aquifers if you're good at game. I'm still not good enough to deal with aquifers. So let's choose this. Oh, and within this area, again, if you want, you can use the capital letters to make a much bigger embark size. Not super recommended as you can get lag, but there's nothing too bad if you just want to increase it a little bit. So let's just do that to give ourselves a nice amount of mountain and grassland. Okay. So then you want to, because this is our first one, hit E to embark. Yes, we've selected a larger area. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, you will want to prepare for the journey carefully. You could just go ahead and play now, but I find you end up learning a little bit more about the game when you start looking into what you're doing. Now, you have 7 dwarfs to start with, each of which can have a series of abilities. And in the bottom right corner you'll see how many points you have. 400. That will be split through as many skills as you want to give to your dwarfs, and also all the items and equipment you want to take. It's generally a good idea to make sure you've got a few starting items, such as the copper picks, which you'll need to mine, the battle axes, which you'll need to cut down trees. Strangely, you can use any type of axe for that, and an anvil. You probably won't use the anvil for quite a while until you find some decent metals, but you're really going to be stuck later on if you get the metals and you don't have an anvil. If you're lucky, somebody will bring along one on a trade, but you don't want to count on that. Now, the main things you want to make sure you bring for your dwarven party is lots and lots of alcohol. Every dwarf is a chronic alcoholic. They need alcohol to function. If they can't drink anything, they'll slow down and just stop working, and it's no fun at that point. So you want to make sure you can bring as much alcohol as you can carry. Now, the next thing you want to do is bring plenty of spawns or seeds, and these are used to grow your little farms. For the most part, you want Plump Helmet. Plump Helmet is excellent. You grow it into a nice item which you can feed to your dwarfs, and you can also turn it into rum. And dwarves are fine with that, living off an entire diet of plump helmet in both solid and liquid form, and they never really complain. A few dwarves have preferences. Hopefully none of them hate plump helmet. If they are, well, I think they'll just have to live with it. Okay, so you'll want to make sure you've got seeds for each one. Certain items can only be grown during certain seasons, and whenever you harvest one and then eat it or turn it into alcohol, you'll get more seeds. So these 5 will become maybe 10 after you first harvested and turned them into wine, and then again later on you'll end up with 20. But really you'll want to increase that to about 20 to start with, just so you can start a decent farming operation. Now, some of these others are a little more difficult to deal with. Cave wheat, you have to actually, last I played, you had to process that into bread or cakes or something else to make it edible. That can be a bit of a hassle. And pigtail fees. Ooh, is music causing problem for people? Okay, hopefully people can still hear me. I can't go back to the music without quitting the game and starting again, which is a bit of a problem. People can't hear any music. Interesting. Hold on 1 second. I think I might have this sorted, guys. Boom. How's that? People should still be able to hear me. They won't hear anything in the game. And if you hear me saying this and can't hear any music, it's all sorted. Yes. The joys of becoming a pro YouTube streamer. Okay, that'll take a few seconds to sync up, but guys, let me know if there's any problem. Okay, so cave wheat, you can grow it if you want to. It's worth taking a few now rather than try to find some later. Pigtail, that's used to grow items which you turn into clothing. Not so useful eating, and generally you'll end up with a lot of spare clothing anyway, so you can just take a few of those and grow some as you want to. Rock nuts, if I recall, can grow quarry leaves, which again you use for growing into food. Similar to cave wheat, it turns straight into alcohol, or you have to turn it into something else before you can turn it into food. Dimple cup, I can't even remember what dimple cup does, but I think we've covered enough of them now. Yep, some plump helmets, you want plenty of those. Lots of yes. Now these ones, you'll need some buckets. Buckets are used to carry water here and there. For the most part, they're not a problem, but if you have a sick dwarf who's lying in a bed, you'll need a few buckets so they can get some water. We hopefully won't need to worry about that for a while. Most of these you just leave as standard. So you'll want to add a few items here. Let's go to the, where would it be? I think we might actually have, there we go, Dwarven Ale. Yes, any item you don't currently have in your embark list, you'll see here. If you can't see it, you've probably already got some. Let's add some Dwarven Ale to the list, and let's make sure we're taking about 20 of those. You can never have too much alcohol, not one bit. Anything else we'd like? We've already got a couple of bronze picks. You don't generally need more than 2 mines to start with. Maybe later on as you start expanding your fortress you'll need a few more, but at that point you'll have a lot more dwarfs. Right. I think we'll be okay for items. Yeah, that looks good. I'll just see. Yep, that'll do for now. Okay, so let's talk about skills. Every single thing you can do has a skill associated with it, whether it's mining, woodcutting, carpentry, mason, and I could read the entire list, but you get the general idea. I'll just see how far this goes. You can see it does get quite specific further down you go. And there's quite a lot there. And it's still going. Jeez, I've had quite a few more skills since last played. Oh, you can have dwarf and astronomers now. Okay. Right, okay. Well, most of those we're not going to worry about, but we'll pick up a couple of skills to start with. You'll want, let's say, first 2 dwarfs to become miners. You will want a someone to become maybe a carpenter and woodcutter. Now, I'm giving the miners, I'm making them adequate miners just because it takes a bit of time to go from not something to a novice, and by making them adequate, it makes it a little bit better. Just gets the game starting straight away. You can have people who aren't miners at all start to mine, but they're so slow. And for this woodcutting carpentry, you're not generally doing so much as a problem, but again, you just want to give them that basic skill. Apart from that, it will automatically assign them roles to do woodcutting, which means they'll just go and grab an axe straight away, and that'll just save you a little bit of setup. Now, you'll want somebody to be a mason. You don't generally need to worry about engravers. You can have any dwarf start doing engraving and they'll pick it up quite easily. They'll just smooth over your entire fortress, make it nice and neat, and then can start putting high quality engravings everywhere if you want to. Generally they'll pick up that skill, and it's a fairly good thing to have idle dwarfs do later on, so let's not waste any points putting them into that. Now, jumping around a bit, something else we might want. You'll generally want a stone crafter. That's used to make some some nice dwarfmanship items which you can trade with later on, and that's going to be quite a good source of income for the most part. Generally, everybody likes nice little stone items. You'll see trade with different races in the game. Humans and dwarfs don't mind what you want to give them. Elves can be a little picky. They don't want anything made out of wood. They don't want anything made out of people. They're quite happy with stone. As long as that stone doesn't get covered in blood, then they'll be happy with it. So let's see. What else do we might want for this list? Let's see. Yes, I've not got a metalsmith. Just be useful to speed up your production of anything metal. I'm not going to worry about armor or weapons just yet, because you're going to get those sort of dwarfs later on, at the point where you need to build weapons and armors. Hopefully you won't need to do that straight away, otherwise you're going to have some trouble. So let's see, there's a few other skills. Yes, you want a grower. Growers are the farmers. If you can't grow, then you won't really be getting you won't really get many crops very quickly, and you do really want at least one dwarf to be an adequate grower. So I'm just going to make this one a competent grower, just to make sure he can just hurry up and just grow those crops. And yes, of course, on top of a metal sorry, struggling with controls here. Yep. Now, because you're not going to use any metal for a while, you want people to double up. So I'm going to make somebody an adequate brewer. Just as we're growing the food, we can then turn it into alcohol pretty much straight away. You want to be careful you don't want too much alcohol. Not because too much alcohol is bad, but if you don't have any food because you've turned it into beer, the dwarfs will get hungry. We'll deal with that as we go along. I'll help to make the brewer at least a novice cook as well, just because you can turn some extra items into food. You'll get a lot of junk items left over, like offal and meat and other things which some are edible, some aren't, and you can cook them into biscuits and everybody will just happily eat that. Weaver, clothiers we don't need to worry about. Ambusher, trap. Butchers, you probably don't need a butcher to start with. I will say you'll want a fisher dwarf. Now, I've already got the grower, so I don't want him to do anything else. But how about stonemason? Let's make our stone crafter do some fishing. Now, I do realise I've not got any equipment for him, so let's get a fish. You can just start typing in here and it will give you an option to search for the items. Okay, apparently you can start the game with fish blood. That's interesting. I can't see a rod. Maybe I've already got it. Oh wait, no, of course, it's been a while since I played this game. You don't need fishing rods, jaws fish with their bare hands. Obviously, why couldn't I remember that little fact? Okay, yes, I realise I've forgotten something quite important here. Animals. Animals are good for two reasons. First of all, dwarves love animals. They make them happy. Second of all, some animals, such as dogs, can make good, not only good pets, but also good defensive animals. You can have hunting dogs, which will go with the hunters as they go to kill and take animals, and also war dogs to protect a fortress. Now, the other good source, which I know a few people might have issues with, is the you can turn animals into meat and supplies if you have some spares. Some people might feel a little bit iffy about this, and you probably will too when you start playing the game. But after a while, when your dwarf fortress is just slowing down because the entire fortress is filled with cats, at that point you'll start to be a little less reluctant to turn all your kittens into meat and clothing. Sounds horrible, I know, but that's Dwarf Fortress. Now, obviously, I probably don't need to explain it to most of you, but if you do want some animals, try and take at least one male and female, just so you can breed them and get more. You really don't mind which ones you slaughter, as long as you get at least keep one of each. Don't kill one of them, because funnily enough, you can't breed with only one gender. Most of these refer to just different animals, different preferences. There's not a great deal of difference between them. Some of you can milk. You don't really need to worry about that unless you really want to make cheese. Also, they cost a lot. So, you can get alpacas as well. I probably want to just bring a couple of dogs. And I'll bring a cat. Pair of cats. One word warning about the cats is that they will adopt dwarfs as pets, because that's how cats work. And you do have to make sure that if you start getting too many kittens, that you slaughter them as quickly as possible, because if you suddenly find yourself with 20 kittens and they all start adopting various dwarfs, you can't slaughter them. Dwarfs will not let you eat their pets, even when they're starving to death. And as I mentioned, it can slow down the game, so do keep an eye on your cat population. Because dogs don't breed too quickly, and they're quite useful, I'm going to get 2 of each. Okay, so what else do we have? Well, we've still got 173 points, so let's give people a few more skills. I think I might want to give... What's he got? Okay, he's a mason. Let's see what else we can make him. Actually, tell you what, let's buff up his masonry skill, make him a slightly better mason. And I believe we got some fighting skills somewhere down here as well. Here we go. Okay, so most of these skills require you to have certain items. Obviously, you're not very useful as an axe dwarf. I know he's calling it axe man for some reason. Well, you can't be one if you don't have an axe. You can't be a swordsman if you don't have a sword, and so on. One thing you can be, though, is a wrestler. If you're unarmed, you can still fight, and everybody can do that. Shield fighters and dodging are also good skills. And if you're worried about someone getting into a little bit of a scrap, give them some of those skills. Now, if I recall, you'll probably want your axe dwarf, wherever he is. Or she, I can never tell with these names. I'm sure some people can. There we go. You'll want to make your axe dwarf a skilled fighter, because why not? And let's give it a few more. Yeah, let's make some other people wrestling. At least novice will do. You can't unfortunately make one super dwarf with this. You're limited on 10 skills for each dwarf. So while I'm giving him all these abilities, I do have to be careful just about how many to give him. Okay, I've missed a couple. Okay, that's probably going to do for now. I could give them more skills, but I could be at this all day, and I think we probably want to get on with the game. So let's just buff up how much alcohol we're taking. Give us a nice amount there. Maybe take a few more seeds. And how about some nice food? Pond turtles. Turtles are good. You eat turtles and they turn into, well, apart from the meat, you also get some a turtle shell and some turtle bones out of them. The bones you can use to make some nice items, and the shells can also be used to make some items, but you don't get shells for many items. Pretty much just turtles to my knowledge. But occasionally you might want for certain things, so we'll keep a few of those. 20 I think should be more than enough. Okay, what else? Let's put some rum in. And we've got one left. What can we spend it on? Ah, there we go. One more seed. Okay, done. Now, let's embark. Oh, yes, you can actually save us. Dwarf Fortress demo. And that will just let you keep the profile for later. So if you don't want to end up doing this the same way every single time, do it once, save it, and then next time you play a game, you'll get to use it. That's quite useful because the first few times you play this game, your dwarfs will die. Not because of anything particularly wrong, just because that's how the game goes. You suddenly learn something, say, oh, elephants aren't your friend, or your dwarfs die. Or what happens instead of dwarfs all dying is sometimes you just get one or two who are just running around in tantrums and occasionally just throwing things and not being generally useful dwarfs. And at that point, the game's pretty much over, so you abandon the fortress and start a new one. And to that question, no, I am not using any mods. You welcome to use whichever mods you want, but I don't want to tell people how to play the game with mods, just because sometimes it can be a bit of a hassle to set up. It's easier than it used to be, but if you can understand how basic Dwarf Fortress works without mods, it's easy enough to figure out with mods. Okay, so there we go then, and let's embark. Yeah, the game hasn't crashed, it just takes a while for this to go. Okay, it says not responding. That is not good. Oh dear. Nope, it's okay. Game is back on. Okay, I can hear the music now. I couldn't before. So if anybody else can hear the music, then I've messed something up. So then, let's see. Okay, it will take a while to load up, as I said. The only thing it takes longer in a game than embarking is creating a new world. So generally you want to create a world for yourself, or if you've got quite a slow computer, you can download pre-made worlds from other people. It will take a while. I spent 15 minutes doing it earlier today when I realised, oh yeah, I should probably make the world first. It's not a fun process to sit through, and while you can change some factors in it, I just generally create a random seed and just go with default settings, just because it takes long enough. Now, I'm not just being lazy and forgetting to start here, we just have to wait for this process to finish, and there'll be a big press enter key in the corner if everything's working. I'm still waiting for it to come up. It will come up eventually. Any minute now. I do like the music for this game. I know it annoys a lot of people, but you do get used to just single, like, casual guitar plucking. It's quite nice. I'll probably trim this down for the video after I finish the stream, just because it's so long. So consider this stream exclusive content, guys. Come on. Any minute now. Any minute now. Ah, there we go. Okay. Right, so here's a basic view of the Dwarf Fortress. On the far left, you'll see a little dwarfs with little smiley faces here. All the little symbols you see around you refer to various things. The important ones, the little green ones, are grass. The white ones are usually stone, either boulders or just bits of rubble. So zero is the... What is zero? I believe zero referred to oxen that have pulled the wagon around for you. In the middle, you'll see all the different controls. I'll go through those in a minute. There's a lot of them, but don't worry. Eventually, it won't be much of an issue. And on the far right, you'll see the big world map, or at least your local area world map. You can hit tab to hide different one of these as you want. So let's just take a look at our world. The game's paused at the moment. Okay, so we've got lots of ponds around here. Now, I'm glad... Okay, circle is definitely not oxen, because otherwise I would have a hell of a lot of oxen. Nope, it's a tree. Okay, that's fine. It used to have a different symbol, but I guess things have changed a bit. Okay, so all these blue areas, thankfully, look like water. They're the pond. Oh, and we have a nice river here. And this is good, because our river dwarfs will use it to just get fish. Now, the funny thing about fishing and water is your water doesn't need to be connected to anything to get fish from it. You can just have a little pond that you've dug out yourself and filled in, and the dwarfs will quite happily turn that into a pond, and fish will just start appearing on it. They'll spawn from nowhere. I'm not quite sure why. Okay, so we've got a fairly flat fortress here until here. I was expecting we'd sit next to a mountain. I forgot to talk about the elevation earlier, but it's not a big deal. Okay, ooh, we got some big trees here, actually. Trees have gotten substantially bigger. Okay, so... Oh, yes. I might as well walk through some of the controls then. So bring this up here, because we don't really care about that. Now, shortcut keys. I can't remember how to set up the others just yet, but I'm sure I'll get to them later. But F1 will take you to your wagon. You won't really need a wagon after a certain point, but it helps just to bring yourself back to where you started originally. Now you can use K, and that will let you look at single objects. So we've got a dwarf planter there, got a nice dwarf here, another dwarf there. I believe we've got a dog here, another pair of dogs there. Now, normally you get something that's pulled the wagon. I don't seem to see one here. Oh, there we go. There's a horse. There we go. Just two horses. There we go. Don't know why it says a stray. I might... Oh, yes, because they've not been adopted by anybody, and they've not been trained as a war horse or similar. Okay. Now, if I recall... Yep. You can use the arrow keys to move around, and you can also use the shift key to move faster. But generally, you don't want to do that with a cursor. You just hit escape, and you can just move around as like this. And if you want to look at something in more detail, you can push T, and that is the building view, actually, not just more detail. Yep. T will let you look at buildings. Now, the only building we have at the moment is a wagon. We don't want to do anything with that yet because it's still filled with all equipment. And to be honest, the only thing you can do is hit X, which will remove it, and that will destroy it. You will get the items from it, but you also just come up and just take it to bits. Again, it's a wagon, it's filled with items. If we do that, they'll just get scattered everywhere. And then you'll find these little miscreants, which are called rhesus macaques, will just come along and steal all your stuff. I've never met a rhesus macaque in real life. I'm not sure I want to. And yeah, these controls do get very confusing to start with, but you do just get used to them. I don't know if there's a solution. There may be a few mods which make it a little bit better, but as I said, I'm just going to go with the basic controls because that's what I'm used to, and then you'll be able to just using it a little bit easier if you want to. Okay, so we'll just come out of that view. Let's look around a bit. Now the little left and right angled brackets or arrow keys, the bottom right of your keyboard, depending on the keyboard you're using, are used to go up and down Z levels. Is it a 3D game? I know it doesn't look it, but it has multiple vertical levels. So if you go down here with the right one, you'll be able to take a look at what's here. Now, it looks like this entire level is made out of there we go. There's some stone, that's what I wanted. Now, the reason that's important is that to farm items, you need to grow them in soily areas. It just allows the plants to grow and be harvested. You can plant them in rocky areas, but the farms aren't very useful until you put water over them. Back in the old 2D version of Dwarf Fortress, that used to be fairly straightforward. You'll build up a series of floodgates and triggers, and you'd have a lever which would basically flood your farm and then unflood it again, and then afterwards you could go in and just plant the crops in a nice moist ground that you've created. A little harder to do this time around. So I think what we want to do is dig into the fortress and make an area that starts off in this stony area, and then we'll branch out a bit into this soily area so that we can start building some farms. Now, you will see these little spots of water here. Don't dig into them. If I go up a Z level, you'll see that they are dark squiggly lines. That means there's water just below you. If they're slightly brighter squiggly lines, that means it is just water. And if you dig there, you will basically flood things a little bit. Interesting. Willow roots. Okay. So let's dig here. I think, Now, you will want to allow other people to come to your fortress later, so we don't want to have too awkward an angle. So while I would like something a little bit closer, I think I'm going to dig. Okay, yeah, I didn't mention it, sorry. To dig, or mine, just tap the D, and that will bring up another list of commands. Now, the main one here is D to mine, and that will just dig out a block. H is channel. Channel is basically digs out a trench. So if you were to dig out a trench here, it will dig away the ground and also the block beneath it. If I were to just mine away this area here, then you'd still end up with a floating piece of ground above it. And that's probably what I'm going to do to start with. So you just hit enter, and you can start selecting an area to mine. Select down to where you want to and hit enter again. And a dwarf will just come along and dig away that area. And that's just going to make it easy for people to walk through later on. Now, just dig away this little square here. And I think we'll want a... you know what, let's go for a 2 wide passageway for now. Might to expand that out later, but 2 should be good enough. And we'll dig another 2 this way. And another 2 that way. And then we'll wait to see what we've got, see what the rest of the ground's like. Now, the other... Okay, I appear to have killed a sound. I'm very sorry, guys. Let's just turn this off. Okay, how far did I get? What was the last thing you guys can remember me saying? Did you hear about my thrilling tale of how stairs work? Right. I was also going on a little treatise about ramps. Trench. Oh wow, okay, it's a bit further back and forth. Okay, use D to mine, I explained that. H, which is channel, digs a channel in the ground. Let's just do one here to show you what it works. Same as mining, you select an area. Okay, and that will dig away the area here and also the ground. Well, it will dig out basically the ground level and also the block underneath it. As you'll see shortly, this area I've marked out here will dig away this land, but will leave the ground there above. And that can create an interesting situation. You can effectively build a little bridge so that these ramps should all stay in place and all lead to these upward areas. Now, the stairs, okay, if you go to the mining menu, which is D, you can build stairs here using U. We'll build an upstairs. Tell you what, I'll just hide these so I can repeat it so you guys can hear me. So use stairs to go up to places rather than just going down mines the whole way. Stairs just let you dig straight up, straight down quite easily. You can use a set of upstairs to go upwards, but you will need a corresponding set of downstairs because otherwise the stairs will lead to nowhere. So we've got a set downstairs there, followed by a set of upstairs. So now dwarves will be able to go down there and through here if they wanted to. Aside from that, there's also the up downstairs, which are quite useful to go up and down. So as you'll see shortly, when they dig this, I'll be able to make this quite handy. Oh yes, and one thing I forgot, I'm double tapping enter here. But if you tap enter, and if I recall right, you go down a few levels, you will build a staircase quite far down. So if you want to have a fortress that goes quite deep underground, you can do this quite easily by hitting enter once, going down a lot of levels, hitting enter again. And now we're going to have quite a deep staircase down into the deep depths. Now, I don't know what we're going to find down here, but let's just build a little hideaway for our miners. Now, I know the game's still paused here. I've only got a few more things to go. Okay, next, what's next? You can build ramps as well, but as I said, ramps aren't as useful. You need to build them right next to things, and right next to ground at another level. You can't just dig them through the ground. It's able to go up, and it's not as neat as stairs. But you do have the advantage if you can take wheelbarrows and wagons can go up and down ramps as well. That's not very important for your starting wagon, as that doesn't move, but it will become important later on when you start getting traders, and then you'll want to plan out a decent route for them to go and clear that route and make some nice ramps for them to go up and down. Now, we will want to get some trees next, and that's T. If I just go back to here, yeah, there we go. So let's just dig away a few. Trees are important because the only thing you can make beds out of is wood. So without wood, you're a little bit stuffed. So we've got 7 dwarfs, so I think about 7 trees will do. Let's just take one more. Now, the toady one, as developers called, feels weird to say out loud, is always adding things to this game. And last time I played it, trees were single blocks that just got you some wood. Now they are significantly bigger and have very large branches, so I may have bitten off more than I can chew with this, but hey, let's just see how that goes. Okay, so we chopped down a few trees, and we've got a little area here we're going to dig out. So let's see, I think we're good. What else have we got? Stockpiles and buildings we're not going to do anything with yet, so let's resume. And you'll see, yes, these little areas, which are that little flashing area now, is just showing where the dwarfs are first starting to target. There we go. And we've already dug out. Oh, we are digging quite far down now. Yes, you can see in the middle here, these, I'll just pause it for a moment, these little group red triangles that have appeared, that's an area that the dwarfs have just dug a channel down into. A nice little slope there through some fire clay. And as you can see, it's dug out the ground, and it's dug out this area here as well. And this dwarf here, that's just digging away this ground here. I'll wait until he's done a few more squares. You can make the game run a little bit faster if you want to. By setting up the ini file. I'm not going to delve into that now because it's such a hassle. But if you can see here, you've got some ground where you had it before. The tiny dots just refer to open space, but you see here we've got this ground here, and below here we've got the area we mined out. It has also destroyed a ramp. It has destroyed the ramps, it seems. Okay, so I was wrong. You can't just have a piece of ground with nothing beneath it and have a ramp leading up to it. Ramps need to be against solid ground, it seems. That's not an issue. Okay, so we'll just let that dwarf slowly dig his way through there. It will take a while. Oh, you will notice as well that here you've left a piece of dolomite because our dwarf has just mined out some dolomite. Now, depending on how experienced a miner they're not always going to leave behind stone, but by the time you've dug out a decent fortress, you'll have more stone and you know what to do with. So generally you don't need to worry about that. But you may want to save your metal veins when you find them until you've got some experienced miner dwarfs to dig through them, just so you can get as much metal from it as you can. But stone's generally not an issue, with a few exceptions. So let's take a look at what we've got down here. Ah yes, here we go. We've now got some, what's this? Some gneiss, I think it's called. Can't tell you a great deal about that, to be honest. It's gneiss, okay, great. It's just stone. Use stone for so many things that there's not really much point. There's a few, each of them has special properties, and I say the toady one has gone into a lot of depth into all the different aspects of them. Each type of rock has a different melting temperature, and there's actually a few which are resistant to the heat of magma, which is quite useful if you want to build a trench, as any walls you make out of regular stone will quickly get destroyed. But if you use a special fireproof material, then it will resist the hot magma. Now, you're asking if a cut tree, someone's asking if a tree that's been cut down will fall on another dwarf. I hope it can't. Let's see how our dwarf is doing. Wow, okay, well we seem to have quite a lot of wood there. It seems that you get a substantial amount from each tree you cut down. And I reckon I've dropped a... Yep, some of the wood's fallen in there. Oh, and there's our fisher dwarf just here. And it seems he's already dug out quite a few turtles. Now, I didn't really want him to do that straight away because I don't have anything I can do with them. And raw pond turtles do need to be cooked ideally before you can do anything with them. Or butchered, I believe. And I believe there's something else here. Is it V? Yes, there we go. Character I forgot to mention earlier is if you hit the V, you will be able to view different characters, view their current activities there in a lightish blue, and see their skills. And it seems that this dwarf has picked up a few skills already. Apart from being a novice of various different categories, he's also a competent dancer. Interesting. Now, if I... How do I go down in this one again? Skills, skills, skills. Nope, nope. Ah, yes, it is. Plus and minus will let you view the different skills they have. And boy, does he have a few there. And he's also quite good at different items of poetry. This is really quite an educated dwarf. I should have made him something more than a simple fisher dwarf. Or she, sorry. I'm just noticing now, while I don't have any idea about the gender of a name Udil, I do see the little female symbol there. So that's quite nice. Okay, and we can see the same here for our planter, Seabrick. On our dog is also female. Do I have any male dwarfs? Yes, I've got two here. Stukos and Dobar. Mafol is also female. We've got a female axe dwarf, a male mason, a male brewer and cook, and a female farmer. Okay, so let's go see how our digging's doing. Excellent, making some nice headway there, both from working together. Now, while this is going on, I'll want to dig out a few rooms here. You'll probably end up redesigning the early areas later on as you go, but for starters, you will need a few basic rooms. When you build a room, it's at least a 3x3 area for the workshop, but you actually am jumping ahead a bit. If you go to B, B lets you build items, and I believe the workshops should be down here somewhere. Maybe we change that one. Let's see. It says B is building. Maybe I'm just being a bit dense, but I can't seem to see the workshop anywhere here. Ah, there we go. W for workshop. So if we take a look at the, say, the Carpenter's Workshop to start with, it's a simple 3x3 area. You can see here the lighter areas are the areas a dwarf can walk around in. The darker areas, they can't. So from this shape here, you can see that we can fit it neatly into here when you finish digging it out. So I probably don't need to go any further than that. But aside from that, I will want my dwarves to sleep somewhere. So let's dig out a little place for them to sleep. They can all live in a nice communal barracks for now, I think. You can give your dwarfs individual bedrooms later on, but if you don't put them in individual, give them somewhere to sleep, they'll be very unhappy. And apart from anything, nobody likes sleeping on a hard rock floor, even dwarfs. Here we go, I'm starting to get to the clay. That's good. I will need that when it comes to mine. Hopefully it won't be too far. Oh yeah, the little sea running around is a cat. Cats will run around, do their own thing, and kill all these little insects, which is nice actually if you want to get rid of the insects in your fortress, as they can cause you a few issues if they get into your food supply. So yeah, cats are good. And I know I complained a little bit about them earlier about them overpopulating a fortress, but in general they're quite nice. Let's see, that one's almost finished with the workshop. So hit B again, and I believe W. Yep, W takes you to the workshop list. So let's build ourselves a Carpenter's Workshop. Just plank out there. And here you get to choose what materials you want to build it out of. Really all you need for this is one item. Now you can use some of your fancy wooden logs if you want to. Honestly, it's best to just use stone. For the most part, whichever stone you have closer. It doesn't make a great deal of difference for most of the time, unless you're encountering fire or lava or magma flowing around your fortress. Ideally you're not. Then if your fortress is made out of something that won't be damaged by those materials, then you might as well do that. But unfortunately everything's flammable, even stone to a certain degree when you get enough heat. So we just use the first closest thing, in this case dolomite. And there we go. All it takes is one piece of material and someone can come along and build that. Now if you hit T, there we go. It will tell you the current status of this workshop. It's waiting for construction, and it needs somebody with a carpentry skill. Now we have, here we go. We have our little carpentry woodworking dwarf here, who will run along and start building the Carpenter's Workshop. I'll just take a little bit of time, and there we go. Now I'll just pause it again. Now to use a workshop, you hit Q. Yep, and that lets you view the different buildings and assign tasks to them. And you add a task by hitting A. Now the one thing we want to do here is search for beds. Beds are here somewhere. There we go. And you want to do that a few more times. So let's see, 7 beds should do. Right, now hopefully our carpentry dwarf will come back and start making beds. And by that point, these dwarfs here should be finished digging out the barracks. Now you won't want to build the workshops too close to where dwarfs sleep because it does make them unhappy. I might have put the carpentry workshop a little too close there, but we can deal with that later. Now the next thing we want to build is another workshop. We will want a mason's workshop, so that's M. Right, and this one is clear on both the top and the bottom, so I think I will just dig it just here. Now I don't need to leave that extra square, but I just find it's useful because eventually I might want to expand this out to another level, and I don't want the workshops just exposed as they are. So let's dig away here. Oh, and I didn't mention earlier, you can use a mouse to select everything. So if you do want to build some fancy Space Invader type things here, mined out in certain ways, you can do that. Okay. But to remove anywhere, I didn't mention it, to cancel any digging or other modifications you want, you just have to use the X and just select the area and say, nope, I don't want to do that. There you go. Just to ruin my nice little Space Invaders motif. I'm not even going to try to draw that because I'm not very good at it. So we've got a carpentry workshop, our dwarfs in air, slowly building some beds. And we've got a mason's workshop, which we'll be building shortly. Let's start on the farm. Okay, first thing we want for the farm is, well, an area to farm. I find 4x4 areas tend to work fairly nicely. So that should do. I just like to leave a little pillar in the middle just to help guide me. It used to be an issue if you had a room too big without a pillar, the entire cave would fall in. I don't think that happens anymore, but let's not take chances. So that should be a decent enough size to start with, and I will also want to build a decent sized stockpile here, just a little side room, just to store my seeds in. It'll be a little bit faster. I haven't explained stockpiles yet. I need to dig out a slightly larger area before I can do that. So I'll build the masonries. Yeah, I'll build a mason's workshop now. Drop it in here, drop some dolomite in. And let's build an area for some materials. Now I mentioned earlier, dwarves don't like it if people are working near them. They don't care if somebody walks around, and a stockpile isn't really considered work, or at least it wasn't last time I checked. So I will build out a decent sized area here, some items, and another one here. You keep them separate items in separate rooms just because it's easy to organise. And also you might want certain items close to certain areas. For example, when I've finished it, I will want to put the I want to make this little room next to the farm just used for storing seeds, so that dwarves can as quickly as possible just plant when it comes time for planting season. And I will also want to do the same with food, just so they can quickly grab it and dump it in the food storage. In fact, I haven't built that yet, so let's do that now. I'll build a shortcut for them, and I will also, for other reasons, want to build a new one here. That passageway is going to be useful later, as I'm going to need to build a dining hall somewhere for dwarves to eat and drink and be merry. And so I'm going to just start on a little corridor there. Thankfully I'm nowhere near the water, so that shouldn't be an issue. Saying that, it's probably a good idea to make the dining hall entirely stone. You could dig it out in clay, but the advantage of digging out in stone is you can add engravings to it later, and dwarves are happy when they're around some nice fancy engravings. So while they're eating and drinking, which they'll always do, they'll get a little bit more cheery, which is good. You do want that in a dwarf. Okay, now this is finished. Now, one thing I wanted the Mason's Workshop for is some doors. Doors are important. Without doors, anybody can walk into your fortress, and anybody can just start stealing things. And generally, you do want to keep animals out of certain areas. So we'll build doors, and we're going to build a lot of doors. You do pick up the keyboard shortcuts quite quickly. I've not played this game in 2 years, and it's all coming back to me fairly quickly. So yeah. Okay, so we've got some doors that are going to be built. I'm going to put those everywhere. We've got a couple more rooms here, and we've got the farm. Okay, let's start building a farm then. Okay, so it'll be a farm plot, which is at the bottom of this list here. That's a P. And you change how large you want it to be. So I'll make it a 4x4 area. I'll put one here, and I'll build another farm plot. Another one. And let's go for number 4. I might not use all of these straight away, but when you've got enough people to do it and your farms are that much faster, you'll generally want to. Okay, now you see this little dwarf here is moving very slowly now that they're carrying a bit of stone. As they carry items, they too tend to get a bit slowed down, which is another reason that when you're building something, you'll want to build it using items that are as close as possible. It would be a real hassle otherwise. As your dwarves get stronger, they will become much faster at carrying things around, and as you get more wheelbarrows and some nice areas for them to run around in, they will also be much faster at moving the items. There's some intricacies to the game I'm not familiar with because I'm a little out of practice, and things like wheelbarrows were quite new last time I played it. So you might need to do some things like smooth out the ground first. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got a couple of these that are done. These rooms are done. The barracks is done. Okay, so I'll build a bed. So again, to place any item, use B. I know it says build. Even placing a bed is considered building it. A bed is considered a building of a sort. Seems a bit strange, I know, but hey. Okay, and you can use the different ones here. It only lists a number and how far away. If you hit X, it will show you the different qualities. So you see here we've got these little symbols next to each one. If there's no symbols, it's just a normal bed. Then it's dash for a slightly fancier bed. You can hit V to view any of these. So this is a well-crafted bed. You get a finely crafted bed, and this one here is a superior quality chestnut bed. So you can give your more important dwarves better beds, or anybody you want to really keep cheery, you give them the best stuff. For now though, it's a barracks, it doesn't really matter. We will just want to put all our beds everywhere. So let's spread these out a little bit. I said 7 will do for now because we only have 7 dwarfs. So you might not all need to sleep at the same time, so you could probably get away with, say, 3 or 4, but let's not take chances. And, oh yeah, because I haven't just designated anywhere to put the beds, if I hit T to view a building, you'll see here I've currently got 3 beds just sitting in a carpentry workshop. And that's because I've got nowhere else to store them. And that can get a bit of a problem when your workshop starts getting filled with items. It takes longer to do more things with that workshop. It takes longer to build more beds, longer to craft more items, and so on. So in the long run, you do want to find somewhere to put an items for a workshop fairly close to the workshop itself. So we'll just let these dwarfs run along and place these beds. Thankfully, some items anyone can build. So here it just needs somebody with furniture hauling. Furniture hauling is a standard task that absolutely anybody can do. So if you place a bed, all the doors will just rush for it. That can be a bit of a problem if you've got somebody who's doing some very important job. But you can actually turn these off. Tell you what, I'll do that now. Let's see, we've got our miner here. Nope, that's the wrong one. V I want. Okay. You can select, where is it? It's been a while. How do you set the job preferences? Nope. Okay, well, you're supposed to be able to set the preferences for certain dwarfs to not do certain activities. I'll be honest, I'm not seeing where that option is at the moment. I think I've moved that one. Okay, well, never mind then. You are supposed to be able to set certain dwarfs to not do things such as hauling furniture around or carrying little stones if you need them. And just leave them to the important tasks. Can't quite see where that is. Now, how's this dwarf doing? Okay, excellent. We've got some doors. Okay, so first thing you want is a door here. You want to put a door in front of every room if possible, And let's put a couple in front of our fortress just to stop random animals walking in. And again, in front of a workshop. Oh, that'll do for now. Okay, so I might as well start talking about stockpiles now. So to set a stockpile, you just hit the P key, and then you can just do certain categories for what you want your stockpile to contain, whether you want it to contain food, animal products, furniture, corpses, refuse, wood, and so on. Don't do stone. You have so much stone in your fortress that you really don't want to stockpile for stone. You might want to for special types of stone, but for the most part, no. Okay, so I'll do one for wood now, at least, and tell you what, let's make this one wood. And in fact, if I go over to C, you can just stick with these ones if you want rough categories, but I'll show you this anyway if anyone's interested. You can create a custom stockpile. Let's just remove that now. So I'll hit C and then T, and that lets you have a stockpile where you can add absolutely everything you want. So in this one, we want some wood, don't we? So you just go down to wood category and enable it, and that will enable wood from every one of these trees. You can go in and just say you don't want that one, you don't want that one, and just toggle them on and off with the enter key. But I'm fine with every type of wood. But not only am I happy with wood, I'll also want some furniture to go in here of every type, and again it's very customizable, so you can decide which items you want, and also what they're made out of, whether it's made out of stone, metal, or what. So you can have an area that's filled entirely with fireproof materials if that's what you want, and areas which are just made out of wood if you want to for whatever reason. So yes, we've got all our furniture here and all our wood. I'll put finished goods here, and let's also put leather and cloth here. Yeah, I'll put everything here for now. Bars and blocks. Let's skip bars and blocks for now. So just use E and D to do that. I want to put. Let's skip those as well. Okay, so I just want all the furniture, finished goods, leather, cloth, and so on. All the base materials I do anything useful with, except for stone. Yep, except for stone. I'll leave those for now. And dwarfs will just come along and just dump them there, and that's quite handy because the items that you have left outside, people will come along and try to steal those. So let's just drag that out there and using enter keys, and we can build our stockpile. And why not? I'll build a second one here. Now I can customize those individually if I want to, but for now I think it's fine to leave them as they are. Now when these dwarfs have finished this area, yep, there we go, I will want to build another stockpile up here. And this one I'll also want to be customized, and it will leave the previous options we had selected here. So if I just click D to disable all of them, leave additional items just because it can get a bit complicated. I've never had to change these, to be honest. Okay, the first thing I want to do is enable food, and then want to hit B to block everything, because the only thing we want here are seeds, and that will involve hitting P because you can forbid and permit certain ones, and that just means in this area here we're going to drop all the seeds which the farmers will need, which I think will be fine. So we'll leave that one there, just drop that there. Seeds don't take up a lot of space, and you can also put bags in here as well, and you can just fill a bag full of seeds. So generally you won't find your farm supplies taking up a lot of space unless you start going really crazy with them. Okay, thinking about it, I'm going to want to expand this area out a bit because this is going to get significantly bigger, and because of my paranoia, we'll leave a little pillar there. I might not need it now, but it's quite possible that later on the devs will enable cave-ins again, and we're going to have a bit of a problem. So that should do for that. And let's see what else. Okay, I'll dig a little bit deeper. I will have another one here, and I'm also going to dig out an area for the dining hall. Okay, don't really need to worry about this area for now. Okay, so when my dwarfs are available, they'll come here and just start doing it. Ah, okay. I'll leave them to go away that. I notice our doors have been built, so if I hit T, you can see the different. Okay, no, Q, sorry. It will show me the different options here. A door that's passable just means dwarfs can walk through it. Pet passable means that pets can walk through it. And you can do a few options here. You can set a door as internal. Internal just means that when you're selecting certain areas, if you build a very large room, for example, and you want to make lots of sub-rooms in it, if you set it as an internal door, then it'll consider that part of the room as the same room. That might be a little bit hard to explain. I'll show you when I start building fancier bedrooms later. But for now, you generally want them to be passable by the dwarfs, unless it's, well, occasionally you'll probably dig a tunnel somewhere and find it's filled with horrible monsters, in which case you want to build lots of doors and make them forbidden. The dwarfs won't walk through them, and the monsters will have to smash them down to get through. It's not perfect, but if the monsters haven't noticed your dwarfs yet, you want to keep your dwarfs well away from monsters. Unless you do things like this, then the dwarfs will just happily wander in, find the monsters, and then lure them back towards your fortress, which is less than ideal. And you just hit O to make it tightly closed, just to stop pets getting into certain areas. You do have to be careful with that, because if you've got a pet that's following a dwarf everywhere, they can quickly go through the door while the dwarf has it open, and then we might get trapped on the other side. The reason you make some areas not pet passable is dogs will eat bones if you have them everywhere. And the problem with that is that dogs can choke on bones. So you want to keep those doors separate from, you want to keep that stockpile separate from everywhere else and not allow any pets inside, just to protect your dogs. Okay, so let's allow that to, I didn't actually. Yep, both passable, both pet passable. Okay. So, oh, here we go. I forgot to set up a building. So, I believe that's a, where's a bedroom? I know I've got a bedroom somewhere here as an option. I don't think it's a room, it's a workshop. Nope, not workshop. Where is it? I know it's here somewhere. Bedroom, bedroom, bedroom. Okay, must be a different option then. Maybe it's zones. Nope. Ah, of course. Sorry, yes, you don't build a bedroom. What you do is you select an item, one of these beds, and you use a bed to designate a bedroom. Yep, sorry, it's been a while. So you select any bed, you hit R, and allow you to make it room, and you can shrink the size of it down to a single square. So if you have a bedroom that's just one square, or you can just expand it outwards to the entire room, and it will stop on a door. Now, I mentioned earlier about internal doors. You can see here that it will stop at this point. If I were to change this door and make it internal, then when I build this bedroom, it will continue building it out into corridor because it thinks, yes, this is all one room. And so you can get a ridiculously large bedroom if you want. Fit for a king. That's a little bit silly for what we want to go for, so let's just cancel, make this not an internal door, and just expand this outwards. And you will also want to make it a dormitory. Difference between a dormitory and a barracks is barracks are for soldiers to come sleep in whichever bed. Dormitory means all the dwarfs get to sleep in them. And that should be enough now. And dwarfs won't claim individual beds at this point, but we know this is an area you can come and sleep if you want to. Right. Okay, so that should do for those. Okay, now I noticed that the farm plots have finished building, so let's do something with these. Right, you select here which of the items you want to which ones you want to grow. You're hitting the A, B, C, and D. You can switch between the different seasons to show you what you can grow and what you can't. Winters, a bit more limited. You can only grow dimple cups and plump helmets. Summer, on the other hand, is much nicer. So that's when you can grow those precious sweet pods. Make some very sweet ale. But for the most part, you want to select plump helmets. So you just go down the list using the minus and plus keys. That's you scroll down pretty much everything. And you just want to go down and select plump helmets, because you want plump helmets all year round. We'll do the same here. Oh, this one there. Now it can be a little tedious to do this, but it's important to make sure that you don't miss one, because if you do, you'll find that you've got a season where your plots aren't growing anything. Okay, now that's set up. The other options there, you can leave something fallow, which means you just don't use it, and you can fertilize it. It's been a while since I looked it up, but the last time the only thing you used to fertilize thing was I think it was potash, and the only way to create potash was to use some precious coal and wood, and generally you don't want to worry about those. You can do it if you want, and it will make your crops more bountiful, but in general you're not going to run out of food most of the time. But again, if you want a super efficient fortress, by all means go for it. And if you want, you can use S to say every season fertilize this all year round. Again, I don't advise doing this. So just by setting which crops to grow in each field, that should be enough now, and our little farmer dwarfs will come along and start growing them. But as you can see, everyone's just stopped over other tasks, and they're currently busy running around and bringing all the equipment back. That's good. Let's take a look at our little wagon here. So, yep, our wagon is filled with beer and rum and some other items, and they're just going to go through and take them all to our fortress. Now, I believe you can set up a hotkey. Yep, here we go. So, I'm going to set up a second hotkey. Let's say F2. And I'm going to tell it to zoom here. So, you just hit the appropriate hotkey once, so F2, and hit Z to say zoom here. And I will also rename that one to Fortress. I'll also rename that one to Wagon, because it's not the gate, it's the wagon. And unfortunately my wagon wasn't right next to a mountain or somewhere I wanted to dig in. You can do that if you want, and generally you might find that would be better just to dig a hole straight down. But I always feel more comfortable digging into the side of a mountain, just because I can add a few more things around it if I want to. And you don't have to worry about things flowing into your fortress as much. If somehow, and this doesn't happen often, you end up pumping just vast amounts of water or lava above your fortress, and if the only way into your fortress is down a set of stairs, then everything will pour down those stairs and slowly destroy your fortress. Doesn't happen often, but it has happened. So let's try and avoid that, shall we? Okay, you can see our little farmers here are planting away. The little squiggly lines turn into equals to show there's something planted there, and given time those will become those will go into some nice plump helmets, and they'll be automatically harvested again by the farmers. You will find the farmers become very, very skilled very quickly. For now though, I think everybody is just busy dragging everything around and bringing it into the fortress. Let's bring a couple of doors in. Yep. Now I did earlier I showed you you could I did do a two tile wide corridor. Now the thing about doors is you can only plant them next to a wall. So if you have anything greater than 2, then you won't be able to have doors blocking off the entrance to your fortress. There are ways to get around that. If I recall correctly, you can set a door as forbidden, and that will allow you to build a door. Okay, nope, that's been done now. Okay, so if you want to build a door, you have to place it next to a wall. No way around it. Now, you will want to change it. Oh, what have we got outside here? What's this? Some dense mountain avens, whatever they are. Now I wonder, are these trees? No, they're not trees. Interesting. I think this is probably just flowers. A variety of colours makes sense. Yes, rain sounds pretty, helps things grow, but it can get to be a bit of a hassle. Dwarves don't like being caught out in the rain, and it can also make it a bit harder to see. You just need to see these blue dots flying all over the screen that weren't there a few moments ago. Yeah, so about entrances to your fortress, if you want something wider than 2 tiles, you can do it. You can actually create a little drawbridge and even moats, but that's a little bit more complicated, so I will talk about that later. Okay, they're still just bringing all that wood in. It's going to take some time, I think. Let's see, how much have I got left? Well, they've not even started the alcohol yet, so that's going to be some time. Actually, no, they're not going to bring the alcohol because I've not told them to put food there yet. I will tell them to put food in, but I think I want to wait for them to dig out this area first. So let's just give this a few more minutes. You do tend to spend a lot of time waiting in this game, so especially early on, you might want to find something else to read while this is just running in the background. See, now I don't want to go too deep into the complicated areas of the game, just because I can be doing this for many hours, but I will just go on just long enough to show you how to set up just the dining hall and a decent food storage, and show you how to create some decent food and alcohol. With that, you can get started with the basics of the game and then start playing around with the different workshops, see what we do, and experimenting with different fortress layouts. Here we go, we've got a miner finally ready to continue digging. Yes, now you did see here, there were a few bags here, those little arrow symbols, and they've now been placed inside a barrel. So seeing earlier I mentioned that generally seeds won't take up a lot of space. Multiple seeds are placed inside a bag, and multiple bags are placed inside a barrel. In this case, we've got a barrel that only weighs 16 stones, which is not much at all, considering a single stone weighs 285. It's quite a bit. Dolomite can be used to make steel. I did not know that. Yeah, you will need something called a flux stone to make steel, and that's quite useful. Dolomite is one, I believe limestone is another, and there's many more. Generally you'll find those in your fortress without too much of an issue, so don't worry about them too much. You will find exceptions. Sometimes you'll have a fortress where you're missing one key item, but as long as that item isn't wood or stone of any type, you'll be fine. Okay, just build another door there. And I think I want to build 3 more doors will do for now. You can set up a task to build something and then just have it to repeat, which means it'll continue doing that one task forever. You don't want to flood the fortress full of doors though, so let's not do that. But if you're having a dwarf who's going to start crafting loads of items, that's quite handy, especially if you want to use all your excess bones that you've got lying around, or just lots of stones just turn into valuable artifacts. It's quite useful. So I say artifacts there, not actual artifacts. There's a whole different story which I won't get into now. Valuable crafting items, let's say. And I see I forgot to build dig out a little bit there as well. The way dwarves dig through areas are quite fascinating. There used to be a certain method to it, now they just seem to dig almost at random. If I remember right, they dig to right first and then they try to dig up. Yep. And then when they can't find a square next to them, that's when they move to another square nearby and just carry on. it can seem a little weird. There's a method to it. For the most part, I haven't had to worry about it, but we generally dig in a sort of clockwise direction. Oh yes, you'll see these messages pop up at the bottom. If you hit A, it would show you all of those there. And, well, there's nothing much here, but if you start seeing things such as goblins have attacked or somebody's just died, then you might want to hit Z and zoom to the location and think, what's going on? Sometimes if a dwarf's died, it might be because they've had an accident or just run out of food, or it might be because you've had a dragon appear and just start killing people. And you're not always going to be alerted to these things straight away, so you want to go straight to the location and make sure maybe there's a dragon you've just not spotted. Okay, now we have a decent hall here that we can use. So I am going to build some thrones, as they're called, out of rock. If you build out of any other material, I believe they're called chairs, but let's use C and build some thrones. I also want to build a table. Now you need a throne and a table to build a dining hall. So I just think 5 of each for now should do. All dwarfs are going to meet up at the same time, and you can expand them as much as you want later. Now it can be a bit of a hassle to do this all individually, and later on, if you hit J, you will actually have a series of jobs come up, and you can have a manager who will allow you to create orders. So when you come to this screen, again, that's J for the jobs, just to show you what's going on, what jobs are inactive, and what jobs people are doing. Hit M to go to manager. Then you hit Q to queue up a new order. And it can be anything from collecting webs to collecting sand. You might want to say bed. You just start typing it. And you say, yes, I want to build 12 more beds. Or 0 if you just want to go on forever. And when you have a manager, they will come along, authorize that task, and assign it to a series of dwarfs to go off and build 12 beds. And that means if you've got, say, 5 carpentry workshops, you don't have to go around them individually and say which ones you want to build beds and how many beds. You just come here and just say, yes, build 12 beds, and the dwarfs will just go to get down and do it. You can give them different priorities, and apparently now you can set a designated workshop. Wouldn't worry about that for the most part. We can't do anything with this because we don't have a manager. That's a whole other thing. Now, managers. How do we set managers? Here we go. Yeah, if you hit the N is the nobles key. And here we have a series of roles which you might want to have people fit in. The expedition leader is chosen through voting, or just whichever was the leading dwarf when you started. So that's not going to have you're not really going to have any control over that. For the most part, it's not an issue. Now the others will have different requirements. Now all of them are used for different ones. I forget the bookkeeper. I believe the bookkeeper is used to keep track of how many items you have. If you hit Z, it's just become summer. Sorry, it's just saving the game. I did make 1 or 2 changes to the game. I told it to autosave every time it changed seasons, which it's doing now, bit by bit. It will get through it eventually. It can take a while to save a game sometimes. Maybe seasons might be a bit too much, but I have lost a couple of save games in the past, so I get a little bit paranoid. At the very least, it's worth having yearly saves, auto-saving and auto-backing up, because that way, if your game does crash and die, then you don't lose absolutely everything. It's taking quite a long time. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So, where was I? Yes, if you hit the Z, it will bring up your status screen, which will show you roughly your items in the lower left and your population of dwarfs on the right. Now, in the lower left, you'll see things such as how much food you have, roughly. Now, we know we have 2 other items, whatever those are, and we have 10 items of meat, and maybe about 80 drinks, about 30 seeds, nothing particularly exact. You'll see here it says created wealth and trade information. That's something to worry about later on when you start getting traders coming in. I wouldn't say it's advanced game, but it's more mid-game stuff. Let's create a fortress where you can survive first. So if you hit N, the ones you can use a bookkeeper who will count everything to the, well, whatever precision you say, and they'll just keep track of how many items you have in stock. They'll tell you if you have, say, 32 or 35 lumps of iron, and exactly how much beer you have. Again, very important to dwarves. I can't emphasize that enough. You do not want to run out of alcohol. Militia and sheriff, don't worry about too much. Your sheriff is basically used to start punishing dwarves. When you have 7, it's not much of an issue, but when you start getting a lot of dwarves, you might get some that are a little bit uppity, have squabbles, and maybe start fighting with the others. When that happens, you'll want a sheriff to arrest them and a hammerer to deal out the hammering justice. Dwarves have a very simple punishment scheme. If someone commits a crime, they're locked up, and if it's a serious crime, they're hit with a big hammer. That may hurt them and may kill them, but that's dwarven justice, and there's not really an option about that. There's a few interesting glitches in the past. If a hammerer doesn't have a hammer, he will punch dwarfs instead, which isn't quite as damaging and is preferable. Unfortunately, if they break their arms, they will then bite the dwarfs, which can be quite bad, as biting can mean that the dwarfs can lose various body parts. So yeah, let's not have any hammerer for now. Later on, you'll be forced to have a hammerer as you need to keep your dwarves in line. But the only things you really want to worry about for now, to start with, are the manager. And when you start getting trades coming in and you need to worry about that sort of thing, you want a broker and then a bookkeeper. Let's set up a manager. And let's make our fisher dwarf the manager for now. And let's see what they require. Now, they want an office. Office is fairly straightforward. They just want a room with a table and a chair in it. So let's dig them out. A simple room here. Tell you what, we don't even need that. Let's make a simple 2x2 room here, and we'll make this. Let's just get the controls back, and we'll make that an office for them. Okay, so it'll be a... No, that's not what we want. We want to build a table. I see we've not built any yet. Still concentrating on building that. Let's just drop some doors into here as well. This is finished as well. Okay, I'll come back to set up a stockpiles for now. Let's just wait for this dwarf to finish his table. I think he's got a chair in here. Yep. Let's wait for him to do that, and we'll have another dwarf. Oh wow, you can see these are really filling up now. Yeah, it's good to have these here, because apart from stopping the people nicking them, it also keeps them much closer to where your dwarfs need them. So if I go back here, for example, you can see now all I've got are some barrels filled with food, which dwarfs are coming out to eat and drink. I'll need to change that, and all the alcohol. So yeah, I will want to get rid of that as soon as possible, I think. Let's just get this table finished first. Oh good, it's finished. So he's going to dump it in there, and yeah, you can't actually place an item while someone's carrying it. You have to wait until it's been put into the stockpile. Another reason why you want stockpiles to be as close as possible. So we'll just put a table there. And let's just add another door to the list, and we'll want to promote this to the top. You can just use P to promote an item all the way to the top. So let's get them to build a door, just so we seal the office. Without a door, then the office can extend out to the corridor, and that just gets a little bit complicated for everything. Okay, let's wait for them to finish building out. There we go. Okay, you might actually need a table for the office. It's been a while since I played a game. I think some nobles require an office and they require a separate dining room. And so by building a table and a chair together, you can actually save a bit of hassle and make it all one. But for now, let's just make this... let's wait till someone's built the door. Okay, I'll just wait till someone's done that. Come back to here as well. You can set through, is it bookkeeper? Okay, well, I don't need to worry about that. One thing you can do with a bookkeeper is you can set how precise you want them to be, and it gives you examples of exactly what that refers to up here. The more precise, the better, and obviously the more work's involved. But when they get to a very high precision, they'll be very keen dwarfs. As the dwarfs do different tasks, they will become more proficient in them, and they will also start getting more traits. For instance, if I look at this little fella here, he's become a... Let's see. How do we bring it up? Is it Z I want? Nope, not finding it. Let's not worry about that later, just yet. But we will start getting stats to show how strong and tough they are. I think only our miners are really going to show that. Let's dig out. Let's lure over a few of our miners, and then we can see exactly how strong they are. Oh, is that one there? Yes, they are. Oh, they've become a proficient miner already. Still not showing with their stats. I think they've managed to move that from somewhere. Ah, well. Yes, and our crops are starting to grow as well, which is good. We seem to have something there that we don't want. A hamster. Okay, I mentioned earlier about cats. Apparently the cats have killed a wild hamster. That's a bit of a shame. There's not a lot you can do about that, unfortunately. But you will want to dump it. If you find items like this, just some remains of a creature, they will start to litter your fortress. So if you hit dump, it will mark that item to dump it. And you will also want to place a dump. I believe you do this with a stockpile. Nope, you use it with which skill is it? Zones. Yeah, here we go. Say I lets you set up a zone. So let's just set an area just a little bit away from a fortress, shall we? Just up here. And up here we can select a large area, and you can do certain things here. You can designate them for gathering items or fishing as a good source of water. If you don't want your dwarfs wandering too far near a pack of wild lions, you might want a very nearby pond and just designate it as a water source. Same as if a creature dies and starts bleeding out into a pond, you want to stop people using that because it can get bad. Okay, but what we want this to be is a garbage dump. Now, anything that's left outside and is marked as dumped, such as anything in a garbage dump, will be destroyed at the end of the year, just as it slowly rots away. Now, things like dead hamsters, you don't want to leave lying around your fortress, so we'll just leave it as a garbage dump, and we will let them move that dead fortress up there. Okay. Now, I see that somebody's already using this office as a dining table. And it's actually our manager. Fair enough. Now, he will get an office eventually. So let's wait for this to finish happening. And then I can tell them to build a lot more tables and chairs. Ah, good. Dolomite door is done. Can I build it yet? No, I need to wait for it to be moved. Just waiting for a single dwarf. There we go. Just drag that door around. Okay, so let's put a door here. You don't need to wait for the door to be built before you limit size of rooms. They can tell that you want a door to be... Okay. Yeah, I want to make it a throne or study, and I want to assign it to my manager. By assigning it to the manager is considered to own that room. And you see here that he now says, yes, he has a meager office. Well, he has a modest office, but he needs a meager one, which is good. So now I've got a manager. If I want to, I can hit, again, that's J, then M to go to the manager screen. And I can tell them to build thrones. Let's go for a stone. Is it rock? A stone throne. There we go. Rock throne. Let's build another 10, and we'll do the same for table, rock table. That's another 10 there, and this is significantly easier. Now you'll notice that after a while, let's just cancel. Oh, you will see that the manager will come in. He'll give the order and say, yes, build these tables, build these thrones, and then the dwarfs will just get down to doing it, and you don't need to worry about just about dealing with a lot of hassles involved. Now, we've got this here. Now, I need to build 2 more rooms here. Sorry, first one, I want to build a stockpile. I'll probably be a food stockpile, but actually, no. Again, if you go for customize, just because you can say exactly what you want there, you want all food, but you do, yeah, there's no plant cheese currently. So you will see a few items here that are just disabled. You want all food here except for seeds, because this is going to be where the dwarves come to get the food and their drink. I believe drink's already included in here. Ah, there it is, yes. I have no idea what the... Ah, right, honey, of course. Mead's made from honey, hence why it's an animal drink. I don't think we milk for bees, but hey. Okay, so we've got all the food here. And so that's fine, so we can hit escape. And we can plant this custom stockpile over here. And if we go over to the other side, we can start building some thrones, which is C. And I think if I start building... This is going to take a very long time to place all of them. If I start placing those 2 there, I can at least create the dining room. Now, I mentioned earlier that... I showed you earlier, sorry, with the dormitory, that I placed 7 beds in there, but I only turned 1 of them into a room. And generally it's because if you've got a room that could be used by multiple people, and you take 1 item and expand that to a full quantity of room, it assumes that you want to make all of those items part of the same room, which makes sense. It will be a bit of a hassle if you have to make every single bed part of the dormitory individually, and you'll see it's the same with the dining room. So here we go. You need a table and a chair. You set up the dining room, and you just expand that to fill the entire room. And again, you want the doors there just to block it off. Hit enter, and there we go. We now have a dining room, and dwarves will now come to the dining room to eat. They're all going to run around to move items for a bit longer. If we just go to this, there we go. You can see O next to the items now, and that shows they've come from an order. And if you want to check the status of your orders, which you'll need to do when you've got a big fortress, hit M, and it'll show you how many is built of each item. And that's very handy for keeping track of it, especially when you start getting over 100 dwarfs in your fortress. Now, I want to dig out 2 more rooms now. Let's go for 2 3x3 rooms. What I want to build is a brewer's place. I want to place a place to make alcohol and a place to make food. Not a farmer's workshop. I want a kitchen. Now, a kitchen, I mentioned earlier, you can't build anything on the... Well, you can't travel through the dark squares. So I'll have to enter the kitchen from the bottom or the left. You can just make a 5x5 room. In fact, that's probably sensible. Okay, so let's make a 5x5 room, and we could just place a workshop directly in the middle. Then you don't have to worry about any of these things. You could do the same with 4x4. Let's do 4x4. 4x4 is a bit more straightforward. I'm not going to have any issues with it. So the reason I'm doing this here is so we have the items... Actually, sorry, just getting an idea. I realised I don't want 2 rooms, I want 3 rooms. Possibly 4 rooms. So let's make this 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So what we're going to want to build here, we've got 3 rooms, sorry. That's 3 more doors. Door, rock, 3. We're going to want to build a kitchen. And in that kitchen you can turn anything that can't normally be used for food, such as animal fats or certain items you can grow, you can turn it into some very fancy food. Brewery, you will need a brewery because, as I mentioned, you will run out of beer, and you do not want to run out of beer. And the third item, third room, we're going to build a butcher's workshop and also a fishery. And you'll use that to harvest any animals you find and turn the raw fish you've got into edible fish. Because obviously once you caught a fish or a turtle, you will need to clean them. One thing I did forget actually, sorry. With these stockpiles that you designated earlier, you can go over to any of them and hit S to change the settings. Now, one thing Oh no, it's enabled it. Okay, one thing it didn't used to do was, if you see in the bottom right, prepared food, it didn't used to be enabled by default. It is now, so that's not an issue. But just make sure that when you create a food stockpile, that you make sure you don't include it if you don't want to. I'll just make sure I'm not putting it in here. There we go. I'm not including prepared food into the farmers' stockpiles, which is good. Do I have any more? Ah yes, if you go into the build screen, it will tell you how many you have currently set up. It's just useful to see if you have enough beds for your dwarfs. Seats and stuff are less useful as you get on a bit, but it can be useful as a rough guideline. We'll just expand this out a bit more. Okay, so I might as well build a workshop in this room, and we want for this a brewery. I'm trying to see where that is. Ah, still. Okay. There we go. Now, to brew items, you will need a barrel and multiple items to brew things. Usually just one will do, sorry, it's one item and one barrel. The kitchen's one that involves multiple, and that's a little bit more complicated. So we'll have somebody who's going to come along here and turn this workshop into a little still, which used to fill our dwarves full of some lovely alcohol. Just building it away, and there it's done. Okay, and so from here you can add a task just to say extract something from plants. Not really much alcohol you can do from that. You can brew some drinks from plants, brew it from fruits, or just make mead. Mead requires honey. Fruits, I'm not sure which fruits you can make into drinks offhand. I'm assuming grapes would be the prime choice. And plants, loads of plants can be turned into alcohol. You can also, one thing I didn't mention is that if you're really struggling for crops to turn into alcohol, you can gather plants outside using a herbalist, and you can turn that into various types of booze. Again, there's lots of intricacies to the game I could talk about at some length, but let's try and keep it relatively simple. So if you go to the job manager's page, you could just say brew, and I'll say brew drink from plant. I don't know if you can actually mention rum specifically. No. Okay. So brew drink from plant, and let's make 5. Now that means that whenever there's a barrel available and an item available to turn into alcohol, a dwarf will come along and try to brew that. Now the other ones we want are the kitchen. So put the kitchen there again with dolomite. We will want a butcher's. Let's just put the butcher there, shall we? And we also want, what else do we want? Butchery, fish. A fish dwarf shop, where's that one? A fishery. Okay. Yeah, you do have to be careful you don't place these workshops so that dwarfs can't get into them. Can cause problems. Let's just see if we've got a few doors yet. Have we got them? Yep. Now it's very important to put a door in front of the butchery. Oh yeah, there we go. I'll hit A just to see that. Brewer couldn't build any drinks from plant because they're out of food storage items. Okay, so they're out of barrels. So we've got plenty of wood. Let's make a barrel. Barrels can't be made out of rock. You need metal or you need wood. Don't waste your metal on barrels most of the time, but let's build 20 barrels because you're always going to need barrels. Barrels are great for storing items, and they are great for building food. Yeah, that's going to happen forever now. We're going to occasionally come to that and decide, nope, I can't build anything, I don't have any barrels. But now, I'm also going to build some barrels, and hopefully everything will go hunky-dory. Okay, now the kitchen. Kitchen's an interesting one. For that, you can turn items into meals of different qualities, whether it's easy, fine, or lavish. The only difference is the number of items you can use in them. You can make items from your alcohol, so you might want to be careful of that you don't brew up loads of alcohol and then immediately turn it into food. And you do also have to make sure you include at least one solid item in your meals. You don't decide what goes in, the dwarves do. And I don't think the dwarves try to make meals that are made entirely out of wine anymore. They used to, that was a bit of a problem, because when it was all liquid, it just, well, went everywhere, and nobody could actually eat it. I mentioned before you'd have things such as the quarry leaves, which you get from the rock nuts that you can plant, and animal fat as well. You can render the fat into tallow, and then you turn the tallow into food using your meals. You can in fact make meals that are made entirely out of tallow, and well, the dwarves seem to like it, so that's fine. Now these ones, I've got a dwarf with fishery. I don't have anybody with butchery yet, so tell you what, let's find. Okay, I'm gonna have to find out how to set the jobs up, to be honest. I need to set another dwarf up to give him some more preferences. And I realise I'm forgetting completely how you do that. Okay. Okay, O is, that's not what I want. Well, that's a bit tricky. I can't actually find that option anymore. Ah, there it is, of course. I missed these earlier. P. Yep, so select any dwarf. So let's say we have a planter here. And you can hit I to see what items we've got. G to see their stats. W to see their wounds. Z shows you their status. But with P, you go to preferences. So let's just do that again, sorry. So let's just use this planter as an example. If you go into preferences, you can then select, let's see, you can select work animals. You can work animal, not really needed here. Oh, I'm just hitting P by way to return back to this preference page each time. Occupation, which I know nothing about, that must be a new feature. And labour, to give them some tasks. In this case, you can see here that we've got dwarfs that are willing to do mining, woodworking, and so on. Hauling, most dwarfs tend to do hauling. I believe you can go into, you can tell them specifically what to haul. Generally, you want them to haul most things, but if you do have somebody with a very important task that you want to do nothing else but that task, you want to disable everything, just using enter to toggle on and off. So we'll stop this one from hauling stone about, for example, and they will do nothing but the tasks are assigned to them. So if I give this one another skill, perhaps farming related, is there butchery here? Yes, we'll give him a butchery one. So this farmer should now hopefully just set up this butcher's place. You can give anybody a skill that they don't have any experience with, and they will quite happily try to do that. They'll be very slow at it to start with, and they won't produce good quality items. But as they get more experience, they'll start doing it a lot faster and with much better results. But for butchery, the important thing about that is that if you don't have someone to do any butchery, then if you have somebody doing some hunting and just leaving all the dead animals lying around, they will just rot in the sun, and that's not good for anybody. Now, you will probably want to make a separate room just behind. I'm just going to build a quick door for that. You will want to make a room next to your butchers for storing your corpses. As corpses rot, they start to make a bit of a mess, and they spread something called miasma, which is a very nasty smelling smell around a fortress, and can make dwarves feel quite unwell. And for obvious reasons, you don't want that spreading around the rest of the fortress, and a door will stop that. So, depending on how many corpses you're expecting to have, you can... excellent, somebody's become a carpenter. I guess somebody does have a job now. So, depending on how many corpses you have, you might want to make that room a bit bigger. So I'll create a stockpile here for corpses. I don't need to customize this one, and just place it there. That will just make things a little bit easier. You see all these stones we have lying around as well. As I mentioned, they just get everywhere. It could just be a bit of a hassle later on. If the stone is not supposed to be in a stockpile, and somebody needs to put something in a stockpile, they will move the stone out of the way. So you don't have to worry about shifting or dumping them all just to use that. If you do find that the stones are getting a little bit annoying though, you can use the D to... Nope. Is it I? Z? There's a hide key somewhere. I'm trying to see where that is. Ah, there it is. K? Nope. Okay, well, you're supposed to be able to hide items for whatever reason. I'm not able to. I'm not entirely sure why. Okay, well, it's hidden, but it's just not showing it to me. Okay, so if you hit K, then you hit H. Nope, nope, nope. Not at all. Okay, there is a command to allow you to hide everything in a certain area, but I don't seem to have that option at the moment. Okay, so some of these controls are taking a little longer to come back to me than I would have liked. Oh well, it'll be fine. But the idea is that if you select an individual item, you can just select it and just say H to hide it, and it will just hide it from view. So if you want your fortress to look a little bit neater, then it'll do that. Now, I want to find... Ah, there he is. I've got my mason here. Now, I mentioned earlier about, much earlier, about engraving, and how you don't really need to give anybody skills now, because they will start doing it quite easy. They'll still get good at it quite easily themselves. That is specifically the stone detailing skill. So if you go to any dwarf who's not doing anything, you go to labour, go down to stone working, and then select stone detailing. And now this dwarf will start smoothing out and leaving engravings everywhere that you tell them to. And that just makes things look a lot neater and keeps everybody happy. So if you go to the designation screen, it's with a D, and hit S to smooth a stone, and generally just smooth everything you want to. It makes things look good, and it's also good practice. Dwarfs like being in nice smooth areas because it looks more professional and it makes them happier. And this dwarf will now go around long and smooth out the entire fortress. Maybe not these two areas here, but bit of a waste, I think. Now, again, I mentioned the clay. Unfortunately, you can't do anything like that with, because it's clay. If you ever try to polish clay, you're going to get very bored very quickly and not have much luck. But now this dwarf, when he finally finishes his job of producing another 7, tell you what, let's just let's cancel this for now. I think you get the ideal. So just hit R to remove those. I'll leave the door though. Yeah. So you'll see when he's finished building this door, he will just run around and start smoothing down the ground, and you'll see it starts to make things look a little bit neater. There you go. Oh, you get little notifications whenever a job has been completed. Not every time you've built something, but when they've completed a full job. So now this dwarf here is making everything look a little bit smooth. You can see these little plus symbols there leaving around just to show it's... Oh wait, no, sorry, that's holding a door. No, he is detailing it. Ah, right, but he's holding a door at the same time. Blimey. Is he actually? Okay, and this dwarf is apparently covered in a coating of tears. So this dwarf's been crying recently. This game can get very interesting. Right, so if you hit Z, you can find out some of the status about him. In this case, very satisfied at work. Seems to love working. Blissful dining in a great dining room. That's excellent. How to drink without using a goblet, cup, or mug. Okay, so obviously we'll need to build some of those. They can be built out of rocks. That's fine. It's think like The Sims. You can see what a sim is finding annoying, unhappy. Except think there's 200 of them, and they each have own preferences about so many different things. In this case, very upset about no mugs to drink out of, not enough dining chairs and tables, which makes sense, and being caught in the rain. There's not much you can do about being caught in the rain. Sometimes people just be unhappy. Now, I'm not sure what they were crying about recently. But yeah, blimey, there's a lot more detail here. Dreams of creating a great work of art. Well, he's a mason, he'll get to eventually. I'm not quite sure what they've been crying about, but I'm sure they're fine, hopefully. Yeah, see these tiny little plus symbols here that you can see. I don't know why I'm pointing to the monitor, sorry. You see here, just shows you now that's a smooth area. Smooth areas, I believe, do also move a little bit faster over them, but might just be my memory playing tricks on me. But they can be used to just make everything look neater, at least. And again, everyone's happy. Walls which are smooth improve the value of your fortress and also a room. So this meager office here with our little manager in will suddenly become a bit fancier. So it's a modest office, sorry. It will suddenly become a little bit fancier, maybe a decent office if we're lucky. Same as if you put the higher quality items in a room. Some dwarves get a little bit snobbish and want some really fancy stuff, and that's just one way of doing it. Okay, so he's going to be going around and detailing the whole room himself. And now let's see what we've got here. I missed it earlier. Once we had the barrels constructed, our brewer just went and started creating lots more alcohol. And if you go to the Z status, you'll see we now got drinks somewhere in the region of 200. Okay, that should be plenty. So while people are a little bit unhappy about having nowhere properly to eat or drink, they will cope with it. If they've got not got a goblet to drink out of, they'll be a little bit unhappy. If they've not got their own bedroom, they'll be a little bit unhappy. But for the most part, they'll get over it. If you've got too many of these unhappy factors, though, you'll get some very, very unhappy dwarfs, and that can cause you problems in general. But I think for the moment, that's okay. This isn't a terrible starting fortress. There's things I'd like to improve about it. Oh, that's perfect here. I was just about to end. We now have some migrants. Every so often, you will get migrants arriving into your fortress. I don't know which side it'll appear on. That will vary. But here we have some just appearing right here. In this case, we have a fish workery, which is perfect. We have a dedicated fishing dwarf. We don't have anybody who can actually clean and dissect a fish. That's fine. So let's resume that and see who else we get. And we have 2 fishing dwarfs. Brilliant. Okay, let's see. You can get loads of them now. So let's see what we've got. Okay, you've got a child. So I think these dwarfs possibly might be related, because usually you don't get the... well, they might be married rather than related. Yeah, they wouldn't be related. You will bring your children with them. Children don't do a lot of work around the fortress, but they will actually gather up anything that's been planted. So if you've got some crops waiting to be harvested, they'll bring them. We have a yak. Yaks were expensive, so when this grows up, we can... Okay, I was going to say you can milk it there. That's a male yak. You will not be milking that one. But it came with a farmer who will grow and brew and also tan some hides if needed. Let's see what else. What's that we have there? A water buffalo. Interesting. A male water buffalo. Well, if you get more buffalo, then you start breeding some. That's another farmer. Sorry, not a farmer. A butcher, brewer, and milker. So now we have a dedicated butcher. That's good. And another one. Ooh, a hammer dwarf as well. Interesting. Okay, so this dwarf, as well as having the normal skills, I didn't delve into the military aspect much, but you see here they've got a skill at dodging, shield using, using armor, and also being a hammer dwarf. A hammer dwarf is basically a dwarf who's good with a hammer. So he would make a good hammerer, or possibly a good entry to the militia. If you put a dwarf into the militia, though, they won't do any other tasks. And I think early on, don't worry too much about your militia. You'll generally just want to keep your dwarfs inside and then lock the fortress up. You won't start getting invaded by people unless you put a fortress right next to a pack of goblins, perhaps, and you can just quite happily keep them inside, nice and safe. Who else have we got? An S. What's an S refer to? a ram. Interesting. Ah, that one's a pet. The other ones are just being bought by the farmers just to be nice, beasts of burden. But a nice ram as a pet, that's an interesting one. And yes, if you have sheep, even if they're pets, they will breed. Breeding in this game is interesting. Yeah, I think that's it for the migrants, actually. Yep, no more. What have we got left in this? We still have a wagon. Okay, let's destroy the wagon, shall we? Just give us a bit more wood. It's generally advised doing that after a certain point. Depending on how much wood you have in the area, there's not much point in keeping the wagon. Now, if you go back to here, you've got a lot more migrants. If you hit Z, you'll have 13 total. Now, we only have 7 beds here. So let's build another 6 beds. And a little craft dwarf will get onto that. Hopefully we've got enough wood, that won't be a problem. Now, later on, you're going to want to start building individual bedrooms. There's loads of fancy patterns you can use to design that. You can build, all you really need is one room with a bed. So you can build your beds a bit like this with a one square, one room only has a bed. Or if you want to, and you want to include the option to have a few more things, you can build them like this. I'll show you just an example of rooms you might have. I usually have a series of rooms like this, just for a little cross pattern. And yeah, that will do. And you can just build them like this and just have a corridor basically has branches off into multiple dwarfen rooms. And if you really want to, you can have a little room here just for one dwarf. Always leave a square for the door just because it saves you a bit of hassle. Now, it might be tempting to think, oh, well, you can save some space just by building this one square more to the left and having this as a room. Now, unfortunately, dwarves can move diagonally, and that can cause a few problems if you're trying to build separate bedrooms. You don't really want them overlapping because this one will think, well, this is my room, and so is this square here. And if your bed's here, you've suddenly got a dwarf who's trying to share a bedroom with another dwarf and really doesn't want to. If you create that as a bedroom and it's not a dormitory, then dwarves will automatically claim them. But for now, let's leave this pattern. I think I'm about done now, so I'm not going to tell you how to build the individual bedrooms more than I've done. I think you can figure it out for yourself, and you'll probably want to come up with your own patterns. Now, in terms of workshop placement, you see here I've just thrown the first two together as quickly as I can. If you want to be a bit fancy with that, you might have a corridor that goes into here, and then you'll want a large room where you'll build a series of workshops around, maybe 5 by 5 or 4 by 4. 4 by 4 should do actually, and that will just make sure you keep a large area around where you can put as much stuff as you want to later. So remember, there will be doors here. Keep in mind, you might want where you want to put the doors will vary depending on the size of the room. I think I've placed that in the wall. No, I haven't. That's good. Yeah. And then you'll want a corridor going down here. And this whole area here, you'll want to leave open. And by repeating, this corridor will just lead off into the distance somewhere. I've made it 3 for now. As I say, you'll eventually want to expand things out to 3. And so you can have a larger room where you have this sort of setup on sort of for each side. So you basically have 4 rooms on that side, 4 in this corner, and 4 in the other 2 corners. And then in the center, you've got a couple of choices. You can have a set of stairs leading down to the fortress so people can come here and spread out further. Or you might want to build a trade depot. I haven't discussed trading yet because it's a mid-game area you won't need to worry too much about. But you will want the dwarves to ferry items from the stockpiles to the trade depot. So you'll want it close to your stockpiles. You can bring a trade wagon that arrives into your fortress. But to do that, you will need a 5 square wide area. There's actually an option here. I'm trying to remember how you see that. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Is it depot? Okay, let's just build a depot, and I think that's an option. It's not building. Here we go. Capital D for trade depot. So anywhere you place it, it needs a 5x5 area. It's a big room. So best place to build at is just outside for the most part. But if you're worried about marauding monsters or perhaps other folks just coming in and stealing the items, which can happen, then you can always build it inside your fortress. Keep in mind that anything which is anything stolen from the depot, you will be blamed for. So you'll either have to pay for it by just giving them some free items, or you'll just have to have them leave with a loss. If they leave with less value than they came with, then they will basically treat it as if you've stolen everything, and they will not be happy. And potentially they can go to war with you. So try to avoid that unless you're feeling very confident in your ability to fight off whatever race they may be. In terms of trading, there's 3 races which you'll find will trade with you. There's humans, there's dwarfs, and there's elves. Goblins don't trade. Goblins will fight you, and they will steal your treasure, and they'll steal your children. They're not your friends. Now, so that's one good reason to keep the depot inside your fortress. But if you do that, not only do you have to smooth out a large area and have a 3x3 area for the... No, sorry. You don't want a 3x3 area for the wagon. I believe you need 5x5, in fact. Because the areas to either side of it, I believe it needs to move past just so others can get around a wagon. It's been a while since I've done that, so I'm a bit iffy. You can also build a road, I believe. There we go. That's O. O builds a road, and that will allow you to define an area. Now, if I were to build a road here, for example... Oh, okay, so build a road. Yes, you want to change the height. Wagons are 3x3, so you'll need to want to make any road pieces at least that big. And apart from trees, which you'll need to cut down, and these things here, which are going to cause problems, you will need to just make it a nice, neat path. All the way. You can make little corners. You don't know where the wagons are going to appear from until they've done it once, but they'll move a lot faster on the road, and it'll also keep it easier for you to plan out your fortress. If you want to get really fancy and you find out where they're coming from, you can actually build a protective area around that so that they're under protection of cover the entire way to your fortress. And I'm sure they'll be happy about it, and you'll probably be quite happy about it too when your items aren't getting stolen. So let's see, what's next? I think that's about it. You've got your fishing, you've got your still there, you've got your butcher shop here. Fishery, when somebody eventually arrives, they will turn this fishing item, this fishing area, into a fishery. A fishery will produce some edible fish, and you will occasionally get some offal left over from both fish and the butchery. Nobody just wants to eat a nobody wants to eat fresh cow liver, but you may want to turn the cow liver into some item, make some nice cow liver biscuits, I guess. In which case, dwarves quite happy to eat them. And I think that's covered. Let's see, I've told you how to farm, you now know how to build workshops, I've given you rough ideas of a nice workshop layout, and also, well, dining halls are easy enough. I've shown you rough what sort of layout you can have for the bedrooms. Trade depots are going to take a while. Ah yes, you need an architect for that. So if you find your mason, you won't need to do this very often. And he's probably going to be busy. Yeah, he may be busy with detailing the high fortress some time. So you'll need to go into stonework. Press disable stone detailing. He can come back to that at any point. And you will need to make them an engineer. Where's architecture? Nope, nope. It's definitely not hunting. Not healthcare. It's not farming. Metalcrafty. I'm surprised it's not. Ah, other jobs. There we go. Architecture. There's only a few items that need architecture, and they're fairly straightforward. Oh, I've got one thing I can show you actually. See, it's very exciting. Okay, one type of item you can build is a bridge. I dug out a little tunnel here. I'm going to make this channel much bigger. That won't take them long to sort out. Okay, this could be a bit of a problem. Maybe I need to be a bit careful about this. Dwarves can be a bit haphazard, as I say, about the way they do this. Make sure they don't just go a little too crazy with how they dig out tunnels. They can just sometimes miss some fairly major areas. So if you dig out a large area and miss the middle, suddenly you've got an area that you can't do. Okay, so now that's done, let's just dig away this bit. What I'm going to show you how to do is build a bridge. Specifically, I want to show you how to build a drawbridge. Okay, and these last few should do. Okay, now I think for this I need to build a mechanics workshop. That's T. Don't have anywhere to place that yet. Okay, let's dig out another one. This is a good one. You will want to use this one. It's this will come in quite handy, and it's usually a good line of defense. So I'll build out a little mechanics workshop there, and I will also build a bridge here. How's he doing with the architecture? He's constructing there. Brilliant. Okay, so let's build a little bridge here. Yes, where's bridge? Bridge. Oh yeah, you can build a dirt. I mentioned roads there. You can build paved roads and dirt roads. Paved roads you build out of rock. Dirt roads you make out of dirt. I didn't mention this earlier, but if you care about nice buildings, you can have your dwarfs build blocks. Blocks are basically stones that you just build things out of. They can't be used for certain constructions. If you need to make a mug out of stone, you can make it out of a raw stone, for lack of a better term, that you can mine from the ground. You can't turn a block into a mug. Something to keep in mind if you have any fancy metals later on. Do not turn them into rocks. But if you want to make them out of blocks, then it'll be very nice quality and much smoother and look a lot neater. And it's important to mention for paved road, because you've built it out of rough rocks. It's more like building a giant cobble road than it is a nice smooth road. So we have a bridge here. Bridge of 1 square is a bit useless. Let's make it a bit wider. Let's make it too big. Okay. Personal preference. I like making it this big. And there's also an option here to raise direction here, if you notice. Now what that means is that if you raise it, you can decide which side it raises on. Obviously the side it raises on needs to be anchored. So you could build one like that maybe. But you can't build it in the middle here. But I want one that will raise on the right to show you how this will look. Now this will need a lot of rock, so let's just give it 4. That's what it needs. And then they'll build a bridge over this path. Now, advantage of that is you can have a bridge that a wagon and your dwarves can run across. And if you have this large empty moat in front of your fortress, nobody else will be able to get past. And what you'll be able to do when you finish setting it up is you can have a bridge that you can draw back up whenever you want to. That involves setting up some levers. Has it been set up yet? I have not actually built it yet. Okay, workshop, T, mechanics workshop, that can go there. So that dolomite, yep. And I'll need to make somebody, oh why not? You will get mechanics, but for now I think he can be a mechanic. You need somebody with the mechanics labour assigned to build mechanics and also set these things up. In this case, what this person is going to want to do is build some, well, they're just called mechanics. What's he doing now? He's constructing another building. Excellent. Okay, now we have a trade depot here. Now, whenever an envoy from another civilization or perhaps your own comes along, they will come here, bring their wagons if they can get to it, and just unload all the items. And then you can bring your broker along, or in fact anybody along if you don't have a broker, and they will tell you whether or not well, that will let you trade basically. If it's good to have a broker, because a broker will tell you the value of the items. If you're trading rocks that are worth thousands, well, say rocks, if you're trading items you've created that are worth thousands with food that's worth maybe 20, then that's not very good. So you will want to get a broker at some point in a game just to help you trade a bit easier. If you give dwarves, elves and humans too much, it's not a bad thing, they'll be happy with you, and they'll probably bring more expensive things next time. You can also request that they bring certain items if you really are missing something important, like an anvil, for example. Now, I'm not going to show you that because I don't think any wagons are going to appear anytime soon. So I'll build this bridge and then we'll probably leave it at that. Has this... Nope, still being built. What else is being built now? I think I've done most of the things I need to for now. Yeah, the problem with growing these things is that until somebody eats plump helmets or you turn them into drink, is that you're not going to get seeds out of them, which makes sense, to be honest. So one thing you can do is if you turn all the food you get into alcohol and use the alcohol to cook something with, you'll find that you get a decent amount of food and a decent amount of alcohol from it, and you'll get the seeds back quite quickly as well, which can be good. That just allows the farmers to start growing things as quick as possible. Oh, here we go. The fishery has finished. No, it's not finished being built yet. Interesting. I wonder why that is. They're fishing, but they're not actually cleaning. Interesting. I think you're getting a little too obsessed with the fishing, maybe. It can happen. What you'll probably want, and what I'll do with him, is you will stop him, or her, I'm not sure whether Onget is female or male, from fishing, and they'll use a fish cleaning and dissecting skill only. And that means that they'll come along and they'll just run this little fishery workshop to turn their raw turtles into something a bit more edible. So this dwarf will wander off before suddenly realising, oh wait, no, I don't want to do that. What have we got here? A damselfly. Yeah, those cats will kill everything. Speaking of which, if I show you the animals now, you may find, yep, here we go. Cats just don't care. They will take anyone they want. Oh, new feature here. Okay, you can geld any male animals you want. So if you find you're getting too many kittens, just geld your male cats. That way you don't have to butcher them, but you can at least stop them having any more children, which is nice. I mentioned earlier, I think I got sidetracked, animals breed in a very strange way in this game. If you have a male horse and a female horse in opposite ends of the fortress and they have no way of getting to one another, they can breed still. They breed by effectively plant spores, it seems like. As long as there's a female horse and a male horse on the map somewhere, then the female horse can get pregnant, which isn't necessarily a problem because, hey, more horses, more beasts of burden, more food. So yeah, this is quite useful actually. Being able to geld cats seems harsh, but again, neuter and spay your pets, keep them safe, stop them wandering, getting hit by cars, and also stop them having a million puppies or kittens. You don't want, if you're not going to be able to look after that many, don't get them. It's just a responsible thing to do. Yeah, I was checking to see if the cats had actually adopted any dwarfs yet. You can actually, I believe, just use a toggle to say you want the female dogs, for example, to become pets, and that means that anyone who is looking for a pet may adopt a dog, which is quite nice. Interesting. This is a new stat here. I have no idea what this means offhand. Guessing it just means certain animals you domesticated and certain ones you have general familiarity with. Oh well, we'll just leave that as that for now. And it's autumn, so I'm afraid we've got a long save scene now. Right, I realise I've been yammering on for 2.5 hours now. So I'll ask, is there any questions that anybody has? I'm going to show you how to set up a drawbridge, then I'm probably going to leave it at that. Just have to finish for, waiting for the save to finishing. There we go. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or just show off anything in particular if someone's curious about any features I've not talked about yet. Anyone at all? I'm just waiting for my guys to finish building his bridge. Oh, interesting. A thief. Okay, this happened because our random little dwarf miner happens to have run across a thief somewhere. Where is he? Okay. When you get an event like that, you can actually zoom to the location. Ah, there we are. There's a kobold. Now, our militiaman here, unfortunately, our miner isn't equipped to fight him. However, if you want to, you can set them into a fighting mode. So let's just create a squad. I'll show you how to do that again. You go to Preferences, and choose New Squad. Hit Enter. There, Militia. I should do. Nope, that's apparently not enough. It used to be a one-button option to turn something into military. Now it seems to be a little bit difficult. There we go. Now hopefully that will be enough for this one to go fight him. That was you go into here, you give him a squad. He's assigned a squad currently. And then you use the M for the military key, and you can. There's supposed to be a way to activate the military. Again, it's been a while. Ah, S, there we go. So now the squad will hopefully come and attack this guy. Ah, there we go. And our little guy has now become a is now becoming militia commander for now, and he's going to go and hunt after the kobold, who I want to follow. He moves quite fast, unfortunately, and he's just running away, and he is gone. Okay, never mind. So now I'm paused. Let's go back to our militia, and I might as well remove him from the squad for now. I don't want him in the militia anymore. I want him to mine. He is a miner. Bit of a shame, but that will do. Now, it can make them unhappy to just jump into a militia position like that. You see here. Where are they? It used to make them unhappy anyway. But say finding it in here is going to be a bit difficult. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. Maybe a bit difficult. Well, by throwing him instantly into a military position means they will fight. And oh, geez, another one. Okay. Tell you what, let's do the same thing again. Assign to the squad, and we will basically set the squad up again with S. Let's assign him to this one here. We'll set A to say A, and we want them to kill this fellow here. And yeah, it's got this dwarf here who's going to quickly charge after them. And let's zoom to them. Okay, that's not the one I want. I want my militia commander. Now, unfortunately, the kobold seems to be a bit faster than I would have liked. You tend to get items like guys like kobolds coming up in groups. While you'll have to spot them one by one, it can be a bit of a hassle. So, okay, let's remove him from the squad, and let's leave him back as just being a miner. I'm probably just going to ignore the kobold feast for now. You tend to get a lot of them. I thought it was Blood F for a minute. Okay. Yeah, you tend to get a lot of kobolds, but as long as you have people wandering in and out of fortress, you don't have too many entrances, you should be okay. At very least, once they're spotted, they've run off. So, unless you're really desperate to kill everything in your fortress, which you will get from time to time, you can probably ignore them unless you steal something. They can steal some very valuable artifacts, and that's never a good thing. Okay, right, that's finished. Now this guy's finally going to come here and finish building the mechanics thing. Now, I will want to set up, build some mechanisms out of rock. Mechanisms are used for lots of fancy things in the game, from building levers to setting up traps and building a drawbridge. So I'll just set up to build 3 of those, and once the mechanics, once the manager's come in here and finished doing his thing, he should set it up and come and build some of these. There we go. Now, the reason I'm building 3 of those is to build a single lever, you need 1 mechanism, and to link that lever up to anything else, you need 2 mechanisms. One which is attached to the lever, and one which will be attached to the other object. I don't think it matters how far apart they are to do that. So you can have a lever that will trigger something on a completely different end of the map, and it can be very difficult to figure out which does what. So when we've got these mechanisms built, which shouldn't take too long, assuming my mason isn't doing anything else now, there he is, just slowly hauling those stones around. Jeez, he's slow. Ah, okay, excellent. I was saying I wasn't expecting to need to worry about trading, but apparently we've got somebody here who's turned up. Let's see if we can make it to my depot. Yep, there we are. And we've got 2 wagons with them. Oh, 3 wagons. That's a decent sized one to start with. Okay, unfortunately I've got nothing to trade with, which is a bit of a problem. But I'll at least wait for them to show up, and then you can see what they look like. I thought it was 3. Liaison from the mountain hopes. Ah, yes. Yeah, you can say certain things. This is items you want them to bring with you the next time. So this is where if you're short of, let's say, what is it? Let's say you really needed some barrels or sand or pretty much anything you want. You just tell them, yes, I am short of this, please bring lots of this. Charcoal and coke is quite good. Coke is, coke basically refers to, it's something that you make with coal that is used to create steel. My geology is not great, and neither is my metallurgy, but yeah, it's not Coca-Cola, it's not cocaine, but it is very important for making steel. Now, I don't think there's anything here I wanted to, but if you did want, say, let's say you wanted some more plump helmets because you don't have enough, you can increase the priority. The higher priority, the more they'll bring, but also the more they'll charge for them, which makes sense really. They may not bring anything if you don't ask for anything. Well, they'll bring items, but you won't really get much choice over it. So let's just leave that for now. And I'll only consider it. And here you go. You go through the documents again, and this is what they want. So you can see here they are very interested in thread and cloth, quite interested in short swords and earrings and plants. Now that's good because, you know, we have a lot of plants. So all those plump helmets will be quite useful. You can sell them back for quite a profit. And this will apply for the next time they come up to your fortress, though. It won't actually apply for this one now. So it's not super useful at the moment. Okay, these are just going through super quick. Right, let's go here first. Anyone can trade. We want a trader. You can push G, sorry, to move items to your fortress. Tell you what, let's bring one of these plant barrels. Let's try some trading. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, it says pending here. You can see how far apart everything is. Ideally, you want to set up a dwarf with a crafting workshop to craft as many stone goods as you can. You're generally never going to run out of stone, so you can keep using it to make as many stone toys and gewgaws and all sorts until you're actually filled with them. And then the next time you come here, come on, trade request at the post. Okay, so if somebody arrives, then anybody arrives. Oh, excellent. Okay, we have this, our miner showed up, so now we can trade. And, oh, we actually found out the value of them. That's good. So what do we have here? So we can get some brass bars. I'm trying to remember what I think the fact that circles just mean they don't belong to anyone currently. So if you want a few items, I don't even know what this is. Square, brilliant, cut, violet, sparrow, whatever that is. I'm going to guess that's a gem. Let's see. Do we have any particularly interesting glass? Glass is okay if you want to build some windows. A tower cap. Tower cap is actually wood. Well, kind of. It's like these fancy mushrooms that you occasionally grow underground here. And if you're in a place without any actual trees, you can grow some tower caps underground. You don't usually see them in trade, but I guess it's useful. And yes, they've got all the items of certain better qualities here. Now, if they have these little shorter arrows, that means they actually have another item attached to them to make them look better. In this case, for some reason, we have a rope that's made out of cloth, llama wool cloth specifically, which is covered in spikes of stone. That doesn't sound like it'll make a good rope to me, but, well, it's what they seem to have included. Same as this one as well. This one is covered in, let's see, ooh, a very fancy dye, and also covered it in spikes of gemstone. Okay, so this probably isn't a practical rope, but it's a very pretty one. Also crafted with bone. This is, you get some strange things people craft onto their items. But if you want to, you can get lots of rope here, it looks like. Maybe I'll get some flasks and water skins. They're always good. Why not? I'm going to trade a barrel full of things with them. Let's see. Anything else I want? I just got a bismuth bronze puzzle box. You can have a cat. Cats and dogs and hens and all sorts will come in cages. There's the all-important alcohol. If you find you're short of a particular type and you want to expand your selection a bit, you get some pig's milk. It could be hard to read some of these. Just push V and it will show you the full description. Yeah, barrel of pig's milk if you want that. Some fungi wood barrel. So it's literally, you just keep going here. Weapons. Weapons always good. Some nice crossbows. A bit used without arrows or bolts, but hey. A nice warhammer. Weapons are cheap actually. Weapons are surprisingly cheap. I should have really brought a few of my fortress, but before I embarked, I didn't really expect I'd need them straight away. Okay, tell you what, I could choose this for ages. This isn't a fortress I'm going to keep, so let's trade. He won't trade at a loss. Okay. Apparently I've got something a bit too valuable here. Let's take some things away. Wow, okay. Oh, of course, yes. The items you see here aren't the values, they are the weight. Now, the reason that's a bit of a problem is because I don't have a broker who's got any experience. I don't know how much these things are worth. I mentioned you can have a bookkeeper who will keep track of different things for you. He will quickly pick up an idea of numbers as well, and they can use that to figure out how much something is worth. Let's see if I can trade this barrel full of plants for some iron bars. Nope. How about some wooden blocks? Nope. Okay, wow, this is not worth it at all. Okay. Okay, I don't think I'm going to trade anything here. It's very difficult to trade without a decent broker, so I'll have to pass for now. Which is a bit of a shame, but hey, it's as it goes. Now, I've finished creating my mechanisms, so let's build a lever. Now, traps is just capital B, then capital T to build a lever, and other traps. For this, I just want a lever. And let's put a lever somewhere deep in the fortress. Let's put it in the bedroom. Or in the dining room, let's say. There's usually going to be a dwarf in the dining room somewhere. We can just ignore the trading caravan for now. Is that finished already? Brilliant. Okay. Now, you can use Q. Yeah, Q, same as used to look at stockpiles and certain rooms. You can bring over a lever and use A to add a new task. And there's quite a lot here. Apart from using this to pull the lever, which will do nothing now, you can link it up to a cage, which will open a cage when you pull the lever. Chain, I'm not sure what linking it to a chain does offhand, I'll be honest. Possibly tightens it if you attach a person to it. A door to make you can have a door that's permanently locked unless you pull the lever, and that'd be quite handy. Floodgates I didn't explain too much about earlier. A floodgate is basically a big immovable door that just blocks all water from going through. It's similar to a door in that you can say when it's opened or not, but it's a lot tougher, and you won't get anybody accidentally walking through there. And that's the sort of thing you do want if you want a... if I wanted to dig a passage to one of these ponds, for example, if I put a floodgate next to it, say there, for example, dug out that area, my dwarf would run away, I could close the floodgate, and everything will be fine. And then it could just pull the lever, and I've got an instant flood available. Now, what I want to do, though, is I want to link it up to a bridge. So link it up to this bridge, and it will just take you to the nearest bridges, and you just use the plus or minus again to select one. So I'll link it to this one here, and I'll just say I want to use this mechanism and this mechanism, because it takes two, one for the lever, one for the bridge. And now my mechanic is going to come along. He's going to link up these two items, and then I'll have a drawbridge. I'll just show you how to use that. There you go. There's a little mechanism for there. I'm just going to grab the other one, and he links it to the lever. Perfect. So now I've got a mechanism here. If I go to T, you see there it's got two mechanisms that are built into it. That's what the B stands for. And so I can now show you here, if I go to this lever, add a task, and if I add somebody to pull it, anyone can pull a lever. It's one of those things that children are useful for. If you've got a child who could be hanging around somewhere and you let them pull the lever, then they will go ahead and do that. The game slowed down a little bit while it did that. And here you go. You can see the bridge that was formerly across here now takes up these two little squares here. And oh dear, I seem to have some more kittens. And so now if I had that across a drawbridge with a massive remote filled with, say, lava, then no one's going to be crossing that unless they can fly or are immune to lava. Both of which exist in the game, but not for your dwarfs, unfortunately. Okay, so I'll have somebody else pull that now, and you'll see it'll just go back down. Now, when these drawbridges are pulled upwards, they tend to go there quite quickly. So one thing you do have to be careful of is if there's anybody standing on the bridge at the time, they will be launched through the air. And that's absolutely fine if it's somebody who's causing a lot of trouble and you want to kill off, which can happen with some troublesome nobles. And it can also be good if there's a monster on there. For example, you've got a dragon that happens to be on the bridge, you can launch it across the map and you can go bye-bye. If it's somebody that you don't want to get rid of, that's a bit of a problem. I'm getting a lot of animals, I'm just seeing. 2 sets of puppies and kittens and horses. I mentioned animals would breed like crazy, and I wasn't joking. Okay, so we had 4 dogs earlier. We now have 4 puppies and 3 kittens and a baby horse. That can become a bit of a problem. As I say, when kittens, if they choose to adopt a dwarf, and you will not get a choice in this, you can't butcher them. But now, thankfully, the gelding option is available. Oh dear, all these kittens are female. Yep, okay. You want to geld a female cat, because the male cat rather, because otherwise all these other females will all get pregnant next season, and then suddenly you're going to have 4 litters of kittens, which is going to be another 12. There's a term in the game called a cat explosion, when you get so many cats that the game just slows to a crawl because it has to calculate the movements of every single one. It's a real hassle to deal with, and well, once they've all adopted a dwarf, there's not much you can do. You can't slaughter them at that point, you just have to geld them and hope you don't get any more males appearing from anywhere. You will need a certain type of workshop to build at. I won't go into that now because I've been talking for nearly 3 hours and I need to get a glass of water. Okay, so I think that's enough about Dwarf Fortress to get you started. More than enough to make sure you survive your first winter. And I'll leave it there. Right, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you all later.